So a good rule of thumb for like the first 10, 20, 30 seconds of a YouTube video is you're supposed to really hook people. And like right now, if I was smart, I would be telling you how this is gonna be the most important video that you're ever gonna watch, and it'll help you escape the matrix and resist the slave mind and not get shot in the ear or have something really bad happen to you and teach you how to drive a Lambo. But I'm gonna trust that you don't have the attention span of a goldfish, because I don't feel like thinking of some elaborate way to hook you into this video. So hopefully you can stick around and give me a chance here, because I think this is gonna be very powerful for you and you're gonna like what you hear. So today I wanna talk about resisting the middle, resisting a life where you're basically just existing. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen this before, where somebody is just kind of drifting through the day-to-day. You know, every day is basically the same. There's no excitement in their life. They have a decent job and a decent spouse. You know, they married like the six that they didn't really love, but they're like, yeah, I'm getting old, I'm almost 30, I'll just settle down with this girl, like why not? Everything's okay. Nothing's bad, nothing's great. Their whole life is in the middle. And if that's what you want and you're happy doing that, totally fine, I'm not judging you. But I know if I would have accepted that, and that's how I would have lived my life, because it would have been really easy for me to do that. Like, I came from a decent home, or from a good home, and I didn't have the pressure of like, oh, if I don't build a business, we're not gonna make it out the hood. Like, that just wasn't in my reality. So it would have been really easy for me to just like coast through college and get the cushy job, and like eventually I'd be making a couple $100,000 a year or $150,000 a year by 30s or something like that. And like I would have had a safety net if anything were to ever go wrong. You know, my parents could have supported me, and I would have never risked anything. I would have never tried to do anything, but I also would have ensured that nothing could ever go wrong. Like, I couldn't fuck up because I wasn't really trying. I never had my back against the wall. And I thought about myself doing that and what that reality would be like for me, and I knew that I would absolutely fucking hate it. I knew that waking up every day and having to go to a job that was just good enough would drive me crazy. And having a spouse that I didn't really love, but I was like, I felt the societal pressure and everybody else getting married. And I was like, oh, I need to marry this girl because I don't know if I can do any better. I think about that. I think that is miserable. I don't want to do that and like drive around in some, I don't know, some shitty little Mercedes and like think that I have made it and try to play that whole game. And then the only thing I look forward to is like my friends' weddings. You know how people do that? It's like they graduate college, then they're I'm sorry, this is a total side note and tangent, but like the average person graduates college and then their Instagram just turns into like, oh, it's wedding season, we're at this wedding, look at me and Shorty, we're so happy, and all I'm sorry, I mean. But anyway, I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to avoid the fucking fake smiles and life in the middle. So what I did, and the paradigm that I entered to be able to do so, was basically I'm avoidant of ever being half in and half out in anything in my life, because how you do one thing is how you do anything sometimes, to an extent. Like, for example, if you're halfway into a relationship, you kind of like the girl, but your foot's halfway out the door, that's probably how you're gonna show up in your business. That's probably how you're gonna show up in your content if you're making content, or in your career. Like, you can make the most, if you are all the way into something, do I just say it? Pause. If you're all the way in, opportunities just happen for you. Like, even if you're trying to excel in a career, like obviously I'm an entrepreneur and I kind of encourage people for entrepreneurship, but if that's not your case, like there's plenty of different paths that people can take. And if you're working a 9 to 5, you know, you have two options. Like, do it in a way where you just show up every day and collect your paycheck, and you're not trying to excel or do anything spectacular, and you're just going through the day to day, and that's fine. You'll just continue to show up, and that'll be your life. Or you can really fucking attack it. You can be all the way in and really attack that shit. And then, you know, maybe you get a promotion, or maybe you meet somebody and that leads to something else, and then things just start to fucking snowball. And you know, that's how you create opportunities, is by fully immersing yourself into whatever the problem at hand is. There's this good Charles Bukowski quote about this. It's like, if you're gonna go all the way. You should look that up after this because it's a banger. But that's the approach I've taken to pretty much everything in my life. Again, from relationships to business to, you know, if I want to move somewhere, like even moving to Miami. So I moved here about 2 years ago, and you know, when I'd picture myself living in Miami, it was like the fun, flashy lifestyle. Like I'm traveling, or like I'm just going to different events and I'm doing cool shit. Like living that dope lifestyle that you can probably picture in your head right now. And then I got here, and although I was making enough money to do that, I wasn't living that way. And I was like, I am halfway into this. I'm here physically, but am I here? Am I really doing what I wanted to do at this stage in my life? No. And so wherever I would find myself halfway in the middle between what I want, or in the middle between where I am and what I want, that's the most dangerous place to be. That's what you need to avoid. If you feel like you're working towards something, and you're working, you're showing up, you're putting in some effort, but you're not really giving it your all, or like there's a few things that you know that you can change that would fully immerse you into that thing, then you need to fucking change it. Or you're just gonna you're just gonna create a situation where you know the potential that could have been. That's like the scariest thing about it, is because you know where you're lacking, where you're suppressing what you could actually be doing, and how hard you could be going. Like it's the same with the workout, really. Like if you think about the gym, you know when you give it your all. You know when you're like, okay, I can do 10 reps, and then like on rep number 9, you kind of fake it. You fake like you almost didn't get it up, and then rep number 10, you're like, oh. And you'll do this almost to like convince yourself that you actually gave it your all, but you could have done fucking 20 more reps. Or maybe not 20, but 5 to 10. So it's like the same thing in life. You're kind of setting this imaginary standard on yourself, or this imaginary cap on yourself, and then that makes you accept, you know, a C+ effort from yourself. And standards is what determines your reality. So if your standard is at a certain level, meaning like, if you hold yourself accountable to the standard of, I'm gonna get up every day at 6 a.m. and I'm gonna send X amount of outreach messages for my business, or I'm gonna make this amount of content, or I'm gonna do this thing, and you're like very structured and very dialed about that, and every day you show up and do that, that's where your standard is set. And if you don't do that, you will start to feel bad about yourself because you are not keeping the promise that you've made to yourself. So right now, you kind of have to audit where your standards are and where you're just accepting the haphazard, going through the motions standard. Like this whole kind of safe route and don't put all of your eggs in one basket narrative that you might have heard, that's what keeps you poor and unhappy. Like, the safest thing that you can do is fucking go after what you want and not have a backup plan, because that gives you a backup plan. That's what people don't understand, is actually going as hard as you can at something and putting your all into it is what gives you that safety net that people say that you should keep. For example, let's say you work a normal 9 to 5, but you know that if you work really hard in your company, there's a chance that you could get promoted and work your way up. So you start working really, really hard, and you're grinding, and you're meeting the right people, you're making connections, you're like showing up every day to actually improve your craft. And then one day, the company lays everybody off. You lose your job. You get called into the office, they're like, you know what, we have to make cuts, kick rocks, buddy. But because you had shown up every day for however long and you made the right connections and you clearly became competent at whatever your job was and you clearly had a good work ethic, somebody who also got laid off goes and they start their own company and they want to bring you on and they make you the CFO, or they give you a big role, or they give you a pay upgrade. And like, you know, this is something that I'm sure happens all the time in that world. So it works the same way in other areas of your life. The approach that served me the most in my life is either being all in or all out. And it's okay if you're all out. Just be honest that it's not something that you want. Be honest that like you're not willing to make the sacrifice or have the discipline necessary to go and get something. And that's a fine decision to make if you're gonna be out. Just don't pretend and lie to yourself and like say you're giving something your best effort when you're clearly not. But the most dangerous place to be is the middle. It's like, imagine you're driving a car and there's multiple lanes and somebody in the car to your left starts merging into your lane. They're a little bit in front of you, so you have some time. You know, you have two options in that scenario that will save you from getting hit. Option one would be slam on the brakes and let them go in front of you. Option two would be hit the gas and fucking swerve around them. If you hesitate, you die. If you timidly kind of tap the gas and hit the brakes, you get hit. So you don't want to fucking get hit. And a lot of people end up living their life like this. They're just fucking, oh, don't hit me, I'm just going through the motions, like I'm trying not to disturb anybody or hurt anybody. Like, fuck that, bro. Go for what you want, and as long as you fully go after that thing, it'll fucking work out, and if it doesn't work out, it'll lead to something that is gonna work out. Like, you can never go wrong by giving something your all, or by saying that it's not what you actually want, and allowing yourself to go find a different opportunity. And remember, a lot of the time, the way you show up in one area of your life is gonna reflect in the other areas. Meaning, if you're kind of half-assing it in the gym or in your relationships or in your business or in your career, you know, you're gonna build that standard, or you're gonna set that standard in your head that's like, oh, you know, Ben is fine with just half-assing it. For my example, obviously my name is Ben, it would be your name and your example. But regardless, that's not the standard that you want to set for yourself internally. You want to either be all in or all out. Like, you've kind of seen me do this with my YouTube channel. If you've been following along for a couple months, I've been posting 3 times a week for almost 3 months now. Beforehand, I wasn't posting at all. And sorry, I took a little week-long hiatus to build my mastermind, the Artisan Lab, which you should totally check out in the description if you want to learn more from me, you want to learn more about my business and join a super cool network and community of people. But I'm back now, and other than the week-long break that I took to launch that, I've been super fucking consistent with these videos. I've been all in. So that's the approach you want to take to your life. You know, you can take or leave this advice, but if you want to make more money and you want to live a happier, more fulfilled life and avoid being like the depressed 50-year-old who doesn't really have anything going for them in their life that they're super excited about, and you end up with a 6 that you don't really love, and all you look forward to is weddings? Come on, that's not fun. Don't live life in the middle. All right, love you, peace.